Right, it's 7 o'clock, everybody. Good evening and welcome to tonight's City of Burnside Council meeting of May the 23rd, 2023, opening at 7 p.m. Nina Mani. Welcome to all of those present here in the Council chamber and to those who are watching from home. Before we commence, please turn off your mobile phones or place them on silent if you have not done so already, so the meeting is not disturbed. Mask wearing, of course, is optional. Please stand and remain silent during the acknowledgements. We acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the original custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the Kaurna people today. We pay respect to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. On behalf of the City of Burnside, I gratefully acknowledge and pay respect to all those who have sacrificed their lives for this country and its people. We also consider in our thoughts all those who today are being affected by war around the globe, and especially those in Ukraine. Finally, we seek guidance in our debate as we make decisions that will impact on the lives of all who reside, study, work in or visit the City of Burnside. Grant us wisdom as we serve our community. Please be seated. Just a reminder to use your microphone to register your intent to enter the debate and wait until I've asked you to speak. Please turn off your microphone when you've finished speaking. Please be respectful and patient while listening to each speaker and do not interrupt or interject during the debate. Each person has 3 minutes with a warning bell at 2. And just a reminder about you're only allowed to speak once unless you're of course the mover. And if you have a question, we've got no deputies tonight. If you have a question of staff, it needs to come through me. Live stream, of course, is happening, and we have one apology tonight, and that is from Councillor Zing. We have no leave of absence, but we'd like to welcome back Councillor Cornish from his extended leave. Very good to have you back again with us. Is there anyone who has any declaration to make tonight of interest in relation to any of the items on the agenda? If not, we will move on to the confirmation of minutes, and I seek a mover of those minutes. Councillor Henschke, do you wish to make any comment? All right, seconded by Councillor Turnbull was there, but now it's gone. Councillor Turnbull, you seconding the motion? All right, and those in favour? Against? Carried. There's no adjourned business, no public question time or questions or presentations or deputations, so I move to reports. And the first report is... I said it already, yeah. I was just checking, I did say Councillor Zing's apology, didn't I? Yeah. Okay. So 11.1, Councillor Dawes, you wish to withdraw that one? Third quarter budget update. If I don't have anyone on the screen, I seek someone to move it, please. Councillor Cornish, you're moving the motion. Seconder, please. Councillor Turnbull. Right, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Council Assessment Panel, we do need to withdraw this for discussion because we do need to appoint 2 people. So I don't have anyone to withdraw it at this stage. Councillor Hubel and seconded by Councillor Wilkins. Sorry? You're just withdrawing it. Sorry. Apologies with withdrawing, of course. It was Councillor Hubel. Councillor Hubel. 11.4, Environmental Sustainability, Councillor Davey. Finance end of the month. I seek a move. Councillor Davey, you wish to withdraw or moving it?
I'll withdraw it, thank you.
All right, thank you. Review of items held in confidence. I'll put that motion, I'll get someone to move that motion then. Councillor Dawes, seconded Councillor Cornish. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The minutes of the CEO Review Committee.
Oh. I'm going to move it if no one...
All right, Councillor Dawes, you're going to move it. Seconded by Councillor Cornish. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Mayor's activity report. Councillor Davey, you wish to withdraw it or wish to move it? Withdraw it. And Councillor Wilkins, no, not now. That's Davey. Chief Executive's report. Councillor Davey. Right, so we shall go back now then to Councillor Dawes, 11.1.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to move the officer's recommendation. Before I start, I do feel I might go over time, so I will concentrate on the hoarding fees, and in summing up, I'll talk further about the shipping container and mini skips fees. But I don't think I'll have enough time. I've only got 3 minutes. When we decided to raise the permit fees for hoarding, mini skips and shipping containers at the council meeting last time, a large increase was adopted, considerably over and above the administration's recommendation. The issue for me was not the increase in fees, but the actual level of increase. Why I do support the principle, in hindsight, I thought the large increase has undone what we were trying to do. It did resemble, policy on the run to me, which was unfortunate. Now, as a comparison, I recall that we did raise, for instance, the rates on vacant land during the last term of council, and it went from 100% to 125 to 150 to 250%. We signalled to the community that we were keen for homes to be built on this land and raised the rates over time. That was a good business decision. It was reasonable, it was operational, and I believe we'll achieve the goal over time. Now, as can be seen from the agenda papers, in the case of hoarding fees agreed at the last council meeting, the large increase in these fees has resulted in a 25,000% increase. What this means is for, say, a mum and dad wishing to build a house in Burnside, the hoarding fee for, say, 70 square metres of council land for a 1-year build, which is probably a little bit short, most builds are now more than 1 year, escalates from just over 3,000 to 728,000 to add to the cost of the home. For commercial development, it's even worse. It goes up from 27,000 to 7 million. What has been proposed in this motion tonight is for the hoarding fees to increase over 3 years, from $2.50 to $5 to $7.50 per square metre per week. What this does is send a clear message to builders and to the mums and dads wishing to build or renovate in Burnside that plan to build where council land is not required during the building phase, as the hoarding fees will reach for mums and dads $27,000 in 3 years, not an insignificant amount. We are signalling strongly that we want home and commercial developers not to regard council land like roads, footpaths and verges as a space that can be liberally used over an extended period of time. For mini skips, I'm pleased the administration has now recommended a doubling of the 40-day permit for their previous recommendations that goes from $55 to $110. This is sensible as the expiation fee, which is a statutory charge, is $210, which means that some may try to get away with putting a mini skip on a road for 2 weeks and hope no one notices. Someone will notice, and a fine of $210 immediately applies, so you might as well seek a permit for $110 for 14 days. So I'll finish there. I've got a bit more to say, but I'll use that in my summing up.
I seek a seconder. Councillor Wilkins, do you wish to speak now or withhold?
I'll withhold.
Thank you. I'm looking for anyone else who wishes to speak. Councillor Turnbull. No, sorry, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll speak against this motion. As I made very plain last time in the meeting, the intent of my motion to increase the fees, which is for mini skips, shipping containers and hoardings was primarily, especially for shipping containers and hoarding, to encourage or discourage both builders and the planning authority, which is the City of Burnside, from using our community land in an increasingly ad hoc way. They just assume it, take over, and for months on end, weeks and weeks and often months on end, this community land is alienated from our community, whether it's a huge frontage on Stattenborough Street in Leabrook, where the whole footpath and verge was taken up with the toilets and the offices for the construction site, and it's been that way for months. Whether it's someone who decides that they don't want to unload their furniture at the wharf in their shipping container, they will bring the whole shipping container and pop it on our road and leave it there for a week or 2 weeks. The one I observed most was opposite the swimming centre on Howard Terrace in Leabrook, where on a really busy road, a shipping container was placed for over a week while it was unloaded. I find this absolutely untenable, and I think we should be increasing the fees to discourage this. We've just seen our state government increase fees exponentially for protesters in our city, whether you agree with the amounts or not. They have set the precedent with an increase from, say, a $250 fee for obstructing traffic to thousands and thousands of dollars. So I think we do have the power to increase these fees. It's not aimed at the mums and dads, it's aimed at builders using their land that they're designing a home on more effectively and efficiently so that they do not have to take over community property. So, and if they do, that we actually generate some levy, some fees from it. Staff have given me the information that, it's user pays. We user pay for everything. The examples I've got in the last year, this financial year, from skip bins we've raised $3,360, shipping containers $5,600, and for hoarding fees, a total of $27,000. I think this is absolutely reasonable generation of fees by people taking over prime council land. So hopefully you don't support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. Question, please, to the administration. Who sets the expiation fee?
Through and Mayor, the expiation fee is set by separate legislation, not council.
Not council.
No,
Thank you. My second question is, I was just wondering why this wasn't pointed out, this information wasn't made available to us at the last council meeting, that these fees are going to be so immense compared with the expiation fee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Actually, it was pointed out by myself that there was going to be an exorbitant increase. If I recall correctly, whilst I was calculating on the run, I did point out that a general home in the city of Burnside could have at least $400,000 added to its cost. That was absolutely pointed out by the CEO.
I apologise then for not knowing that. Can I just say one more thing about it, please?
So are you speaking now or are you
Yes, I'm
asking
speaking
another
now.
question? Okay.
Page 8, under risk assessment, 6.1, it says that the Council of Burnside will be criticised and deter people from choosing to live within Burnside. I don't think so, because we're on the house prowl and I've been going to auctions and open inspections. There are well over 100 people in each of those, and they all want to live in Burnside. So there's no shortage of people wanting to live in our beautiful city of Burnside, and I don't think large fees will discourage some of them at all. They're determined to live here. So I think I'll probably go with against the one that's here.
Councillor Jones.
I have a question, if I may. If I park in a disabled parking spot, I get my expiation fee and that's it? I can just park there for months on end? Is that right?
Through and Mayor, I'll just have to refer that to Mr. Heinrich.
Through the Mayor, in extreme circumstances, we could probably issue a second expiation, and if that didn't work, undertake prosecution. But our experience is that they're low-term, short-term objects on the road for a particular purpose, like a renovation or a general clean-out.
Councillor Jones, did you have a subsequent question?
No.
All right, turn your microphone then off, please. Councillor Hallett.
My question is, how many times does this actually apply? How many a year would we have where they're putting their hoarding or toilets or some sort of rubbish removal containers or shipping containers on council land?
Through Madam Mayor, if you just give me a moment, I should be able to pull up some data. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So skip bins for last year, so the current year we're in, we had 27 applications for skip bins, 25 urgent applications for skip bins on top of that. Shipping containers, we've had 8 standard length containers, 4 extensions of those permits, and 5 urgent applications come in. And the hoarding, we've had 7 applications to date, and one of those is for the Burnside village, which is probably the one that I'm particularly worried about this evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Davey, you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I do have a question. Can I clarify the definition of hoarding? People don't seem to understand why it's called hoarding and what it actually means in terms of what we're doing, and do we actually have to give it this title in our fees and charges? Thanks.
Through Madam Mayor, we did look at the definition, and I'll just read out the definition I have in front of me. Hoarding, as it relates to section 221 provisions, is something temporary that may exclude the public from a public area, such as a road or a footpath. Generally speaking, hoarding relates to the development of private land and can also be referred to as temporary fencing. But for context, I'm certainly happy to change to the name of it if that assists our community understand what it is more easily.
Follow-up question, if I may. Thank you. Is that section 221 of the Local Government Act? I'm not sure. It doesn't say which act it is.
Yep, certainly. Madam Mayor, I'll just check. It's correct. Yes, it is. Councillor Davey.
Right, Councillor Jones.
So this is following up to my previous question there. So I park a 40-foot container outside my house, and Barry comes along and gives me an expiation fee, and I ignore it, and he gives me another one, and I ignore it. Then what happens? Talk me through the process.
Through the Mayor, I think I incorrectly answered that last time. But essentially, our information and advice is that multiple expiations would be available in extreme circumstances. So in this case, we have an extreme circumstance where we've issued a second expiation which hasn't had the desired impact. Our only course of action from there, if it isn't moved, is to seek a prosecution through the courts and have an order of the court for it to be removed. But that we would hope that would be a very rare circumstance, rare occurrence.
Councillor Davey, you have another question? I've already got Councillor Davey up, and yours was off the screen, so I'll come back to you. Councillor David.
Thank you, Mayor. How many expiations have actually been issued in regards to these matters for mini skips, hoarding and for shipping containers? Have we actually issued any in recent years? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. My team have just advised I'll have to take the one on notice. I haven't got that data at my fingertips, I'm sorry.
Now, Councillor Jones, you wish to ask another question?
Yeah, so you've prosecuted me, and you've successfully prosecuted me. What happens to me, the person who's left the container on the council's road?
What would happen is that ultimately, if it isn't moved, it would be an order of the court, and failure from that point to remove the bin would represent a contempt of court act. And then at that point, the punishment, if you like, isn't meted by the council, it's meted by the court. So it's hard to say what would happen, but there would be contempt of court scenario, which isn't great.
Well, I'd contempt of court if I didn't move it.
Sorry, Councillor Hallett.
Another question, thank you, Mayor, is how many, if they're basically, it adds up to 77 potential intrusions onto council land, how many new homes get built every year, or do we give permission to? So how does that 77 fit with the overall total of homes being built?
Through Mayor, Mr. Honrick, I'll refer that to you.
Through the chair, the mayor, to give an accurate answer to that, we would need to take that on notice. We deal with about 1,400 applications per year, but not all of those are new houses. So even if it's half of those, it might be 500, but that's, for a more accurate answer, we would need to take that on notice.
Councillor Cornish.
Just a question following up from Councillor Jones' question. I presume it's the same sort of process as an abandoned car on our streets that, you know, could potentially be left there taking up our community space that someone may have left. I presume it'd be handled the same way through court to get it moved. Is that correct?
Through the chair, it's slightly different. The skip bin left there is a breach of the local Government Act, and potential penalties by the court are financial, I believe up to including $5,000 as a maximum penalty. But there are particular processes associated with an abandoned vehicle which are different and don't apply one for one in this case.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Jones?
Look, I'm going to speak against this, and simply because I travel around Burnside all the time, and most housing developments are not occupying the footpath or the roads. People manage their affairs, that they have the buildings they're required to do the building on the block. And if you've got a setback of 6 metres or 9 metres, there's plenty of room to fit all this stuff on the block. And it's only if you're trying to cram as much house as you can over every square inch of the block that you get this problem of spilling out onto the footpath and onto the road. So I think it's a great deterrent to say, well, you can do that, but your house will cost an extra $750,000 to build, which I would thought would put most people off. A bit like fines for Extinction Rebellion weirdos, going up from $750 to $50,000. So I think the motion that Councillor Davey proposed last fortnight was a good motion, and we should keep it.
CEO wishes to respond.
Through you, Mayor, I just want to make sure every elected member is clear on what they're voting on this evening. And the one part I'd like to draw your attention to is point 13, if I may. And in particular to the table, in the last line of that table, commercial precinct redevelopment, 680 square metres for a 52-week period. That's Burnside Village. If this motion does not get up this evening, I'm going to have to write an invoice to Burnside Village for the next 12 months for $7 million. When under the proposed fees, it'll go to something like $120,000. And currently we're charging them $27,000 for 12 months. All I ask is that you reflect on that and what consequence that may have for us. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Your Worship, and Narmani, greet you all this evening. I am in support of this motion. I think it's too much too soon. Absolutely agree with the sentiment. I think it's just being done too fast, too much too fast. I don't think it's fair to spring this on families that have a build in the works and are scheduled to begin their build over the next 12 months to all of a sudden realise that they're up an extra 700k on their build. I just think, you know, I think it's a really bad look in a housing crisis particularly. You know, I think this applies to the full range of people undertaking developments. This certainly should not be revenue raising, and it certainly could be seen to feel that way. And I think as it stands, it really does go too far. I think it discriminates on the basis of economic standing. And I think we need a much more measured and considered approach to deterring this behaviour through punitive means. I think this is just far too extreme and has all sorts of very negative connotations. So I'm very much in favour of supporting this, and I certainly hope that this chamber follows and does so as well.
Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Worship. Excuse me. I'm pretty much split because we want to draw people to live and to have the Burnside lifestyle. But across the road from my daughter's high school at Glenunga International, there is a shipping container sitting on the road where the parents are trying to drop their children off. Now, a lot of people are in the area for only a few years and they disappear off, and we've got thousands of cars travelling down narrow streets every day, and there is a shipping container just sitting on the road, which children, being children, will run across the road, not look, and it's only a matter of time before somebody is wiped out by a massive Burnside bulldozer, as they call them. We need to have a deterrent, but we don't need to use the big stick. Thank you.
Councillor Davey, you have another question?
Thank you. Yes, Mayor. Just further on from the CEO's point, earlier point about paragraph 13, in terms of commercial precinct redevelopment, on what basis did the City of Burnside decide that they would allow or hire out their footpaths and verges around, for example, Burnside Village, on all three road faces, Portrush Road, Greenhill Road and Sydney Street? Huge frontages of the footpath and verges are covered with hoarding. On what basis do we allow that, and what equity is there in this regard? And why shouldn't they pay for it?
Through you, Mayor, I'll seek a comment from Mr. Cant and then I'll finish up the comment. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, I don't have the specific details of the application in front of me. I'd have to, for those specifics, I'd actually have to take that on notice. However, every time we get one of these applications, and we have several throughout the year, We take an assessment based on their needs and see whether or not they can actually use the land available to them within their own site. And it's based on a traffic management and a safety perspective, fundamentally. We don't approve everything, but we do approve accordingly when it's appropriate to do so. And with respect to why don't they pay for it, they have been paying for it, and they have been paying in accordance with the adopted schedule of fees and charges.
Madam Mayor, I might add a further comment if I may. My understanding with the development of the site, because they were constructing right to the edge of their boundary, and it was a very deep excavation, there was no way to undertake that work and still ensure pedestrian safety if the community still had access to that, to our verge. Now you can argue whether they should have adjusted their build, but that's as approved by the state. That's as approved by the state. The second part of your question, I'm in furious agreement that they should pay for the right. There is no question on that. They should pay for the right, and our ratepayers would expect that. But it's not appropriate to charge them $7 million for that right. It's appropriate to charge them something that is fair and equitable and recognises the council's wishes that, in principle, the verges aren't to be used. You know, they are there for the enjoyment of our community. But there are times when it's appropriate that they are rented or used. But it's important that we set that fee appropriately. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish.
Just a question. How often do permits for skips and shipping containers go over the permitted time where we have to actually provide them a fine? Does that happen regularly, or is it a very rare occurrence that someone is leaving something on our road for a year when they only had a week to leave it there?
Through Madam Mayor, I'll just refer that to Mr. Heinrich.
Through the Mayor, it would be absolutely a rare occurrence for a expiation to be issued for this activity on the basis that they are covered by a permit, albeit sometimes with an extended permit at a separate cost. But we don't find that they are lingering way too long, and anecdotally it'll be a very low amount of expiations, if any, at all.
Okay. Can I speak now, or does someone else have a question? No, you go ahead. Okay. I'm going to support the motion as it is. Number one, I do think the hike is probably a little bit too high, 25,000%. The other issue is I am concerned about there might be some environmental impacts here that we might be flagging. If we're wanting people to put all their stuff on their land, they're going to clear it completely. They're going to pull down every tree so that they can store the skip bins and the shipping containers on their land, rather than potentially retain some trees. So I'm just a bit worried that, you know, we might actually be shooting ourselves in the foot, because someone who wants to build a $400,000 house gets charged $728,000 to store something on the road from the council, and they go, well, bugger that, we'll just chop down all the trees so we can store all the stuff that we would have put there on the road. So I'm concerned that might be a message that actually gets put across if we do this in a knee-jerk and probably a sudden way that this might be happening. So I will support the motion that has been presented tonight and moved by Councillor Dawes.
Councillor Davey, you have another question?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, in terms of the time frame that was mentioned before for mini skips, containers, shipping containers and hoardings, how are the community to know how long their community land will be utilised by this? And does council check and keep an eye on this, or is it dependent on the community complaining that this has been there for a long time, which has been my experience as a councillor?
Through to Mayor, I'll just ask Mr Heinrich if he can expand on that one for me.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, two-part question. The first part, there is no public notification provisions associated with a permit, such a permit under the Local Government Act. However, people can make inquiries to the council. In relation to the second question, our rangers will check towards the end of the permit period, or at the end of the permit period, to ensure that it has gone, and will take action if it hasn't.
Councillor Hedgkey.
Question for the administration through the Mayor. Do shipping containers have any, are controlled in any way by the state planning and design code? If they're a shipping container used for construction, storage of materials, say if you're building a medium density high-rise apartment block, or whether it's a shipping container used for shipping container reasons in this modern day and age of international trade and so forth. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, I'll just refer that to Mr Heinrich.
Through the Mayor, such containers on the public road are covered by the Local Government Act and the permit process, which is being discussed tonight. On private land, a shipping container, if it's there for the purpose connected with building activity, does not require a permit, a development approval. So the system's set up either on public land or private land so that these things can occur, so that building works can be done. So in short, the planning and design code's largely, irrelevant to a building process and containers established in connection with building.
Councillor Cornish, you have a question?
Yes, I do. A follow-up question. Just in relation to shipping containers and potentially the hoarding, would they extend to utilities doing work on our streets? So if SA Water or Power Networks have to put something on our street for an elongated period of time, or it might be Dipty or the gas people putting pipes or something, and they are taking our community land, will they be paying these fees and charges?
Through Madam Mayor, I've got a suspicion there's a nuance there, but Mr Heinrich.
Through the Mayor, work by a council, for example, on a public road or Dipty on a public road is exempt from development. In addition to that, the utilities companies have their own pieces of legislation which allow them to establish infrastructure in roads, such as the Gas Act is an example of that.
Just before you speak, would there be someone who could just close those doors and that'll stop the music coming through? Oh. It's okay. No, it's all right. Our staff can do it because you'll do it, but it'll only be it'll go close and then it'll open again. Yeah, if you do want to leave. You're not locked in for the night. Okay. All right, now.
Madam Mayor, I might make a suggestion to the room that may assist with people's thinking this evening. If we just go to the recommendation, and particularly if I'm talking number 1A and B, where I'm saying let's amend the mini-skip permit and the shipping container and storage permit. If the mover and the seconder felt that it would assist the meeting's decision, I'd suggest removing the top parts from the motion and just focusing on part C, the hoarding. So it'd be 1, but only focusing on the hoarding. Remove any amendments to the mini-skip and also the shipping containers, because I'm hearing that is an area that council doesn't want to change, and I've got to agree, whilst the fees have gone up high I think they are still manageable for the people that may incur those fees. Giving you my professional advice, I'd say if you are struggling with that change, if the mover and seconder are happy, I'd suggest removing those from the motion and simply focusing on the hoarding, which is my primary concern this evening. But that's up to the willingness of the mover and the seconder with that.
Councillor Dawes, how do you feel?
Yeah, I still think they are far too high, and perhaps if this motion fails, then I'll move that second time. I want to test the room, if I can, first of all, on leaving it, and then if it fails, then I'm prepared to move the second one.
Point of order, this is a rescission motion. A rescission motion.
We just need some governance advice.
So through Madam Mayor, what we're actually looking at this evening, it's actually a new allowance under the Act, Section 21, which allows the CEO to suggest an amendment to a council decision. So this isn't actually being treated as a rescission motion, so it doesn't fall under those requirements.
I must say this is quite new. This is new Act situation, and it's the first time in my 13 years of council that we've had a CEO bringing forward a change to a motion as opposed to an elected member running a rescission motion, which runs counter to a former motion that's already been passed. So this is quite an exceptional new rule that has come in that gives power to the CEO to do that. I guess there are some people who are wanting to find out where they can locate it, because I can see computers very busy. Can we give a reference so people can have a look? Yes, I haven't forgotten Joe. Councillor Harvey, I mean. All right, so is there somewhere that they can look this up if they are concerned? I like to, I rely on trust.
Sorry.
Okay.
Is someone doubting what I said?
I'm not sure. I'm just asking. If there's no problem, then I will go directly to Section 21 of the Act.
Okay. Sorry? Yeah, Section 20.
Okay. 4.2. All right. Now, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you.
Sorry, I might just get Ms. Reynolds.
They're about to be brought to you.
Madam Mayor, sorry, it is Section 21 of the Meetings Regulations, and I'll just read it verbatim. The Chief Executive Officer may submit a report recommending revocation or amendment of a council decision. The Chief Executive Officer may submit a report to the council recommending a revocation or amendment of the resolution passed since the last general election of council. The CEO must ensure that the report is placed on the agenda for the meeting in which the report is to be considered. The provisions of this regulation may be varied at the discretion of the council pursuant to Regulation 6. Yeah.
All right, now Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question, please, and it's in regards to something that Councillor Jennings said, which I think is extremely important. Why are we allowing shipping containers on roads near schools when more than ever we are focusing on road safety around schools? Thank you.
I guess the only response I have to that, Madam Mayor, is we consider each one on its merits, and one of the considerations is safety. So where they are placed, the officers try to ensure that they're as safe as possible. But I take your point, and whenever we get applications near school zones, we'll make sure stronger due diligence is placed on that.
I suspect that it would also be in relation to if it was possible to be put on a verge, it would be. And I know the one on Howard Terrace was very obstructive, and it was on the road for at least 2 weeks. That was last year. But I guess that would have to be would be one of the rules taken into consideration, because if there wasn't room, you don't want to knock a tree down in order to put a shipping container on a verge. So that space would be, I'm sure, an item, but I do take the point about the safety of kids running out behind shipping containers in the same way as they unfortunately do behind parked cars. Councillor Henschke.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for the administration. Thank you. Why does the administration view that a developer paying $7 million, I think that's the figure you were reflecting on, why that amount would be of concern to a developer when, if they had to buy the land, all those verges around Sydney Street, Portrush and Greenhill Road, which I estimate to be about 3,000 square metres, would cost them around $7 million anyway. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, in my opinion, this doesn't pass the reasonable person test. It is a significant development, and from all reports, about $100 million. So at a stroke of the pen, this council is looking to increase the cost of the development by 10%. I can tell you now, if this goes through, we will be front page news.
Absolutely.
I strongly advise you to reconsider this decision. I'm not saying they shouldn't pay a fair fee, even make it a high fair fee, but not 25,000% on what you said they had to pay only a month prior. Thank you.
They are our largest employer within the city of Burnside. We do need to consider that in our decision making. And the jump is huge. Anyway, Councillor Davey, you have...
Thank you. In terms of reasonable person test, and alluding back to the concerns that have been raised about shipping containers being placed on streets near critical points, a la schools and near our swimming centre, which is catering for hundreds of school children learning to swim in summer, why do we facilitate very well-off people being able to actually physically bring a shipping container into Burnside rather than having it unloaded at the port like all the other mere mortals have, and then have their goods and chattels trucked to their home in the normal way? Why are we facilitating this? What change has changed this for us to facilitate this for very wealthy, high-end individuals?
I'd like to just make a comment that many shipping containers are not just used for unloading goods. They're actually used for security for the equipment that they are using during the construction, because you know how much theft takes place, unfortunately, from building sites. And so many of these, and I've seen a number of these, where they're being used to store machinery like brick cutters and grinders, etc., because without those being locked up in a shipping container, because there's no room on the site, now that's a different issue altogether, but that's what they're used for. It's not just about offloading equipment or offloading furniture, it's actually about using it as a place to store and secure their their building equipment during the construction of a facility. I've been watching this happen in my mother-in-law's street for quite a while now.
Through Madam Mayor, just to answer your question directly, Councillor Davey, I don't think it's fair to say we're facilitating it, because in essence, we've got a fee and a charge in our fees and charges schedule that says you can do it. And I don't think it particularly matters whether you're wealthy or not, the principle still holds. I guess that is why I'm in agreement with you, Councillor Davey, that it's a fairly blunt instrument. Well, the instrument we have is to increase the fees and charges, to at least recognise in some ways the impost it's placing in our community. But again, it's about determining what level that fee is. I can only reiterate my previous request to mover and seconder that I'm certainly comfortable if council doesn't wish to amend those part of the fees. I am absolutely focused on the second part, which is the hoarding. Thank you.
Councillor Davey, you still have another question?
Yes, thank you. And thank you to the CEO for that answer. What this raises tonight is that we don't have any guidelines or policy in relation to this. It all seems very ad hoc in terms of how we manage mini-skip permits, shipping container permits and hoarding. Is there any process in place that we can actually develop a policy for this so that everybody knows the rules and what they would be working to, and which would seem to make it much more fair and equitable to me and for us in our role, which is administering the Local Government Act, our responsibilities under that, to make sure that our roads and verges are used safely and equitably in Burnside.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In terms of policy position, we already have a fees and charges policy, which sets out the broad parameters about how we operate. Really, if you think about how our fees and charges have operated for the last, call it 2, 3, 4, 5 terms of council, I think you will find that they've operated effectively, reasonably effectively. We could argue in some areas we think we are slightly undercharging. We could argue in some areas we're slightly overcharging. But on the whole, they've operated quite well. What we're looking at here this evening, and we've found a couple of pinch points that the council is very passionate about, and I think quite rightly so. I don't think we need any more policy positions. We need the council to determine what they think is the right level to charge on these 3 or 4 items. Now, for all intents and purposes, I think we're almost there. I think the principle that was introduced at the last council meeting was correct. Let's increase these charges to reflect the angst that our community is experiencing. But particularly with the hoarding one, as you can see from the figures, just doing the simple numbers, it meant the multiplication of 693 metres of land has resulted in an extremely large figure, which I don't think anyone foresaw, in fairness. This is about bringing, I think, what council intended last council meeting back to the original recommendation, which was for a significant increase on what we had previously. Last time the fees and charges were set, the price per 1 square metre for a week was 78 cents. Now, in anyone's language, that's cheap. No argument. The recommendation was to raise it to $2.50, which is a significant increase, but it just brings it up to a level which I think most of our community would argue is reasonable and in fact recognises the fact that the council wants to send a bit of a message here. We've compared the unit rates from our compatriot councils, and certainly Councillor Davey, that does give us some level of insight, what are our counterparts doing. and I think it's either in the report or we shared it last time, for example, the City of Prospect use a figure of $6.50 instead of $2.50.
Only.
That-
Well, Prospect may as well, but in this report it's
Okay.
only $6.50.
Okay, sorry, I'm incorrect. So only $6.50. Sorry, I think Prospect might be higher again. Now, I'm suggesting we transition to that level. Again, in furious agreement with the council that it is right that we send a message. But in this instance, I'm recommending to you, I'll say it again, particularly on the hoarding, that we bring that back to a reasonable level. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question? When is this fees and charges, assuming it's passed tonight, when is this reviewed again? 2 years' time?
They're reviewed annually, Madam Mayor.
Sorry?
They're reviewed annually, Madam Mayor.
Annually.
It's part
So
of the budget process.
the issue to do with Burnside Village, when review this in another year, if this were to get through and we reviewed this in another year, we could increase the hoarding charges at that point in time, as is suggested in the motion, right? And it wouldn't have an impact on the Burnside Village development. Is that correct?
The 3-year increase.
So, Madam Mayor, as per my recommendation there, if council was to go with my recommendation this evening, in the next 12 months, Burnside Village's fees would increase from 23,000 to 120 odd thousand. And then if they were to continue with that, they would go up markedly. They would double again next year, and then another 50% rise after that. So, yeah.
So
Thank you.
It could be continuous increases, but if this were to go through, then there would not be a major impact. There would still be a major impact. You're going from 23,000 to 100 and something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. So the impact from the 1st of July.
Yes, from the 1st of July
bear in mind-
until the 1st of July or 30th of June the following year. That means if they are according to schedule and they're due to finish by beginning of 25, they would have another 6 months potential hoarding usage.
So we believe there's potentially another 18 months of use of the verge. So that would necessitate, for example, as per the recommendation, $120,000 fee, and then there'll be 6 months at $5, so doubling again. So, yeah.
Councillor Henschke.
Oh, another question for the administration. Have we benchmarked this with any other city?
Through Madam Mayor, as I just alluded to Councillor Davey, yes, we have benchmarked. For comparison purposes, and I think it was in the last report, there is a range across metropolitan Adelaide. Some councils are, most councils are certainly dearer than the 78 cents that we had, no question. And there's two ends of the spectrum. There was a 78 cents that we were charging, and I think you'll find Prospect is sitting at $7.50. And we've chosen Campbell, in fact, some charge nothing. We've chosen $2.50 as a recommendation, with a view to ratchet that up over 3 years to bring us to that higher end, which I think does send a clear message to developers that, if you do wish to use our verge, we will pay for it, and I think that would encourage them to perhaps look at their own land. Of course, understanding that the developer doesn't ultimately bear those fees, they do pass those through to whoever owns the property.
Have we, follow-up question, just a minor one, have we benchmarked with other cities interstate?
Through Madam Mayor, no, I haven't gone interstate. I felt that it was appropriate to benchmark with the metropolitan metropolitan Adelaide councils, particularly the ERA group, and particularly councils that are experiencing similar growth and development pressures as we are.
Can I speak? Right. The reason I ask those questions is because I have found the City of Melbourne, for example, charges $90 a day per parking bay used. So that ends up being an interesting number for major developments like the Burnside Village. And it's a bit different to what we've got in our papers. And it's very difficult to make a decision tonight because I'm seeing different figures around the country for this sort of thing. And I do feel we need to develop this further before we make a decision. There's just quite a disconnect with what we do in South Australia, with what happens in Victoria, and our city, the City of Adelaide, City of Burnside, we're looking at a future in the next 5 to 10 years of densification along major corridors. So we will be seeing the need to have a user pay system and to deter containers being parked here, there and everywhere. So I'll just offer that to the chamber tonight. Thank you.
I don't have anyone on the screen. Now, Councillor Wilkins, you haven't spoken to second, so I need to go to you next.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be supporting A, B and C. I did support the previous motion 2 weeks ago because I thought 78 cents per square metre was laughable, quite frankly. And I thank Councillor Dawes for actually moving the recommendation here this evening. I think this is reasonable. I think we need to take a measured approach. They need to be responsible for the space that they are using. I am also concerned that there will be, if you don't support this and do not consider the reputational damage you are doing to the City of Burnside and to this development that is our major business enterprise in the City of Burnside, then I'm appalled, quite frankly, because I think what is proposed at page number 13, point number 13, is reasonable. SCAP said, yes, you can do this development. They have had hoarding on 3 sides to protect the public from actually entering the space. If you look through the gaps in the fence and in the roadway, you will see it is a very deep excavation. There is public safety here, and that's what they are protecting everybody from. I think we need to support this development. It has been a long time coming. When I was last on council, I saw the previous reiteration of plans. We had COVID, it's been shelved, but Burnside Village family still want to develop in this site. I think we have to support it. And if we actually impose significant extra costs, what message does that send to other people who actually want to do small businesses in this city? I agree with actually charging people more to actually have a shipping container on the verge or the road. We're doing that if we adopt A, B and C. There's a place in my ward where somebody has had shipping containers too in their yard of their business in a heritage precinct, in a heritage house, for years. Appalling. It's not good It's just not good development. But I actually think you should just think very seriously about the reputational damage you will do to the City of Burnside if you do not support the actual motion here today and actually get a reasonable cost for the intrusion in our public space. Thank you.
Now, is that Councillor Hallett, you wish to speak?
I've got a request. I can't read what's on the screen. It's too small and it's blurry. And I'm also confused about, are we now going to vote on Councillor Dawes, or what the CEO moved?
No, Councillor Dawes didn't change the motion, so
Okay.
we're voting on what is on the screen, which
Okay.
is in your papers.
Okay, all right.
So,
I understand. Thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
glad you clarified it, since
Yeah.
we don't want to make a decision without knowing exactly what we voted for. All right, so Councillor Dawes is back to you. Yes.
Well, thank you, everybody. That was a very interesting debate. It's been nearly an hour, so there's a lot of passion in the room. I just want to continue first with what I was going to say, but I was short of time. And I had got to shipping containers. Now, the proposed fee is $275 for 7 days. No change from the previous recommendation of administration. Now, they are usually in place no longer than 7 days, but if they go for an extra week, the fee increases by $350. So that becomes $625. Now, of the 13 shipping containers this financial year that have been placed, only 4 sought an extension of a further week. So we do need less of them. I'm with Councillor Davey and others that spoke tonight about the shipping containers. I wish there weren't any. In fact, I'd like to increase this charge greatly next financial year, Mr CEO, because I just want to remove them as much as possible from the City of Burnside. To me, they present a heightened traffic and safety issue in the city. And it doesn't matter whether it's near a school or not. And I saw the one on Howard Street that Councillor Davey referred to, and it is a risk. I have to say that to you. Now, a couple of comments that I just wanted to refer to. Some I fully support. I think Councillor Hubel said he understood the sentiment, but it went too far, and that's what I'm trying to say too. It's too extreme. It's a knee-jerk. I don't know about a knee-jerk. It just, I love the principle, but we will get there, but not by 25,000%. We do need a deterrent, said Councillor Jennings, but not the big stick. And I think that supported what Councillor Hubel says. Now, over 3 years, a commercial developer, and we're talking about Burnside Village a lot tonight, their fee will be $270,000 in 3 years' time. That is what this motion is saying. And in answer to Councillor Hinsky, I do think we need to compare metropolitan-wide in South Australia. I don't think we need to go beyond the boundaries of Greater Adelaide to be able to come up with a fair and reasonable
Councillor Dawes, that's
fee.
the second bell.
Thank you very much.
You're finished? Yep. Because someone can move to extend time if they so choose. You're finished, okay. So I shall put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried. And thank you for that decision. Now we move to Councillor Davey, 11.4, and that is on page 39. Sorry, 11.3, I ticked the wrong one. Okay. So 11.3 is the council panel independent members, and Councillor Hubel, you moved that, or withdrew that.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will take advice from administration on how to move forward with nominations and filling out this.
You're basically withdrawing it, and then we...
Withdrawing it, it's yours to play with, yeah.
So what we have to do is I need to first of all call for nominations. Does anyone wish to nominate themselves or someone else to be on that selection panel? Councillor Wilkins?
I'm just saying that I think I would have a conflict of interest if I entered into this debate.
That's a good point. So, and Councillor Dawes, you would have the same, and that's why you're next up to speak. So we're just going to check on this as to whether or not you're allowed to be involved in the debate, all right?
I did have a couple of nominations as well.
Well, there's nothing to stop you from doing that.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I
So,
think-
wait just a minute. Councillor Wilkins, did you want to nominate someone? Okay.
Through
what's
the Mayor,
going-
I've just been informed that it's what's called a general conflict, so they're not required to declare a conflict of interest
Okay.
and are able to openly participate.
Right. Okay. So it's all clear. Councillor Wilkins, now if you wish to nominate someone.
Sorry, do you want me to?
If I've got you down next. All right, and then I've got Councillor Hubel and then Councillor Davey. Okay.
I'll get in quickly first, though. I'd like to nominate Councillor Jones.
Right. So, okay, so the first nomination is Councillor Jones. Do you accept that nomination, Councillor Jones? I will accept. All right. Yes, Councillor, I will go to you, Councillor. Councillor Davies next, actually. Councillor Davey?
I was going to nominate Councillor Jones as well, so I endorse that. And I was wondering if Councillor Cornish is interested.
Councillor Cornish is saying no. Now, Councillor Dawes, do you wish to nominate someone?
Yeah,
That's not already been nominated?
Yes, I was going to nominate Councillor Davey, in actual fact.
Councillor Davey?
I have to decline if that's in the next few weeks because I won't be available during the day on a selection panel. Otherwise, thank you, I would be available.
Okay, are there any other nominations? We do need two. Councillor Jones.
How about Councillor Hallett's? Okay.
All right. Councillor Hallett, are you accepting the nomination? Right. Councillor Cornish, did you have someone else you wish to nominate? All right. So are there any further nominations, please? Well, it's not about enough, but it's not about enough. I just want to make sure there are no other nominations. If there are no other nominations, then we do not have to have an election, and therefore we can insert those two names, Councillor Jones and Councillor Hallett, in the two vacant spaces, and that then becomes the motion. So I'm going to leave that now with Councillor Hubel.
Well done, everyone. I'll speak very briefly. Look, this is a very, very important decision that this panel selection working party need to make while the council assessment panel is independent of the City of Burnside. It does really reflect us greatly in the eyes of the community. I think when the council assessment panel approves something, it is generally accepted that it's the council that approves it. So I think getting the right people on the CAP is very, very important, and I have the best wishes to the two councillors moving forward that they make the right decision.
Councillor Davey, are you wishing to second it?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm very happy.
Just wanted to clarify that you also included the increasing of the sitting fees because that's part of the motion. Yes. So just before I get you to second it, Councillor Davey, you're aware and you're in approval of that. Councillor Davey, now it's your turn.
Thank you. I endorse Councillor Hubel's sentiments that this is a very important process. I endorse that we advertise and ask for expressions of interest widely across our community so that we get a broad range of people who are able to fulfil this very important role in our community. And I therefore also endorse that increase in the sitting fee to $450. Thank you.
Councillor Jones, do you wish to speak?
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Am I right in thinking that we actually only need to have one independent member, plus an independent chairman, plus a council member?
Through Madam Mayor, sorry for the delay, but it's important that we get this answer
All right,
correct.
we just need to have everybody's attention before that to get the answer.
So under the City of Burnside Council Assessment Panel terms of reference, which were adopted in 2017, it says the CAP should be constituted of 5 members to be appointed by the council, comprising 1 member of the council and 4 independent members, not being members of the council or state parliament. So that's actually a council-determined position as it stands at the minute. The extension is that whilst you wouldn't be able to do it this evening, council could choose to move a motion to vary that.
And that's governed by which act?
Planning Development Infrastructure Act 2016.
So it could be reduced by 1?
So, yes, you wouldn't be able to do it without notice this evening, but you would be able to do it with notice at your next council meeting if you chose to.
And a reduction by 1?
Oh, whatever incantation was proposed, but.
Okay.
But yeah.
There's no, what I'm getting at is there a government expectation? We've had this number for so many years now. I'm just wondering, is there a government ruling that states what the minimum is of independence?
A quorum would be 3.
A quorum would be 3.
Yeah.
That's quorum, okay.
I'll just have to concur with my colleagues to see if there's a minimum.
Yeah.
I think most of the councils have 5.
Yes, most councils have 5, and that's why I just need to know what the Act says. Yeah. And we've had 5 for years. What? The rules have changed, so we get 4. He's very legally savvy, is our current chair.
Through Madam Mayor, the advice is that the minimum number would be 3, and but that also would be
3 independents.
No, 3. So it would be 2 independents and 1 councillor.
2 plus 1.
But it would also mean quorum. The minimum quorum would also be 3 in that case. It just means that no one could ever be away.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. But 3 is the number out of interest.
Thank you. I haven't put the motion yet. Oh, sorry, Councillor Dawes, yes, you were there.
Yes, I just want to extend what Councillor Davies said, because 2 years ago, just for the benefit of the new councillors, we didn't get a great response from potential independent members. So what I'm looking for is to, I know Councillor Davies said to advertise widely, but I'm just wondering if we could just look beyond just the normal areas where we do advertise, and to make it well known that we are looking for 3 excellent members, right? Now, we chose 3 excellent members, but they had no competition last time. So I think it's always best when you have a number of good candidates and then choose the very best. So I'm just passing on to administration.
We had no competition for the chair.
Yeah, certainly. If I may, Madam Mayor, I think in fairness, we advertised fairly in a targeted manner. We certainly went through, I think, the Planning Institute. Yeah. But for example, we could put it on Seek, for example. Seek, and that gets a global audience actually. But so there's no reason why we couldn't do that to expand the net.
The advertiser?
Well, at this day and age, you don't achieve much by going to the advertiser in terms of spend. But we'll certainly make sure we advertise broadly.
Yep.
All right, Councillor Hoover, do you wish to speak, or shall I just put the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Right, now Councillor Davey, it's 11.4, page 39.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an alternative recommendation. Could you just scroll down, please, Bronnie? And I'll read it out. And the alternative motion is that Council notes the progress with the initiatives outlined in the Environmental Sustainability Project.
Councillor Davey, you don't need to read the ones that were there, just read the additions or changes you've made. Okay.
2, schedules that a minimum 6-month trial project of changed bin collection frequencies be commenced in the first quarter of the 2024-25 financial year, with weekly FOGO organics collections and fortnightly landfill collection as outlined in the report, subject to a successful budget bid as submitted for consideration as part of the 2024-2025 annual business plan and budget, and continues its investment to engage the City of Burnside community to reduce waste to landfill with improved usage of food organics, green organics bins, with an education and promotion campaign, recognising those with English as a second language and our senior residential community, and an opt-out process. 4, schedules a workshop later in 2023 to support this and to determine appropriate trial locations. And 5, maintains a City of Burnside target of 0 avoidable waste to landfill. So in speaking to this, I thank the staff, Barry and Phil and all of the team, for all these fantastic initiatives and projects that we have underway, which are helping us to work and achieve our environmental sustainability so well. It's great to see such a great range. And then following that, we have the response to the council motion of March about changing our bin collection frequencies. So this is particularly in relation to the work that some of our colleague councils have done, City of Prospect, Holdfast Bay, Charles Sturt, and I think Mitcham are going down this way, correct me if I'm wrong, that we actually trial weekly feed green food organics, green organics bin collection. This is because research shows that around 30 to 40% of our material placed in our landfill bins are food waste. It's still a very high rate, and it should all be going into the green lid bin. It's costing us a huge amount of money, which is the impost for which we pay as our state landfill levy. We want to get this down as far as possible. So the actual fact of providing a weekly food organics, green organics collection service and fortnightly red bin collection services actually encourages residents to place their food waste into their green bin. A trial of green bin collections will help demonstrate that our community can increase the amount of food waste they recycle. And of course, important to this is engagement of and information to the community, because there is still a lot of confusion in our community. The environmental benefits are significant. It's, as we all know, processed into high quality compost and stops that waste going into landfill, producing harmful methane and greenhouse gases. The other benefits are, well, I won't go into them, I've mentioned those. The other significant one is that there are opt-out provisions in all the trials that have been developed and designed, so that families that aren't able to meet the requirements due to their special needs can opt out, or if they have desires along those lines. The trial would also provide important data on diversion and contamination rates, so we can actually get some real benchmarks on and it really improve the collection of our data, and hopefully provide an insight into how a weekly food organics, green organics collection service could be introduced across the City of Burnside in the future. And of course, we also support the initiatives that the administration have made in lobbying the state government to change the legislation so that this is possible. But many other councils are already using this service using these trials to go down this way with this legislation in place. And I think it's only a matter of time with the state government before that's changed and facilitated. So I hope you'll support this. Sorry about my croaky voice. Thanks.
Councillor Hubel, you're seconding?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'll reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Councillor Dawes?
Yes, first of all, I want to thank Councillor Davey for sending this out in advance. I do thank you, and I do like what you've done. And there are 4 reasons, or was it 3? 3 reasons why I love it. The first one is in number 2, you use the word successful, because what I don't want to do is put in place something for next year's budget when we don't know what's going to happen next year. So I like the word successful in number 2. In number 3, I love the word opt-out, because that was an issue we had last time, last council meeting. And thirdly, in number 5, the word avoidable, because I think in the previous council we were seeking 0 waste to landfill, and I'm glad that Dr. Phil Ropeman has said, well, it should be 0 avoidable waste, and I think that is the right term. Can I just add one extra thing, which I did share with Councillor Davey today, that with all this extra green waste being collected, what I'm hoping in the future, and I will say either 1 or 2 years' time, that we will make compost bags available to residents free, say 1 free bag, like we do with the biodiversity plants, or through a coupon or whatever. So that's yet to come, but I think this gives us the opportunity to ask for that on behalf of residents, because I know a lot of residents would take it up.
Councillor Wilkin?
Oh, you're music to my ears, Mr. Dawes. Mr. Cant will know all about this, talking about compost going back to the resident. Can I tell you, it's been done before. In the council of 2014 to 2018. And in fact, Forster's down on Portrush Road used to actually do that. You could take your coupon along and get a free bag of compost. Because let's face it, we have contributed to their green waste and their affordable compost for years. And hey presto, it can be done. In fact, we could start it again quite soon, really, couldn't we, Mr. Cant? Thank you.
Our CEO has some news. We're actually already doing it.
It's not quite totally free, but the current arrangement with Jeffries is buy 1, get 1 free.
That's what I said.
I will.
They have the sheets on the customer service desk for...
Yeah.
Pick one up today.
Well, let's circulate those sheets.
Councillor Jones.
Look, I'm sorry to be a party pooper, but this motion is a waste of time and money. We're increasing our budget expense. Oh, there's a surprise. Let's increase the rates yet more. Our community survey says there's very little support for it, and I don't think it'll make a blind bit of difference, because my household, sample of 3, I recycle organics religiously. I'm forever going in the bin, chasing after my wife and daughter, saying that's in the wrong fucking bin. And
Councillor Jones, that language is not appropriate.
And I'm sorry, whether I take the red bin up once a week or once a fortnight, or the green bin up to the road once a week or once a fortnight, they don't know and they don't care. The only way you're going to get more green waste in the green bin is an education program. And I simply do not believe that switching the red and the green bin is going to make a blind bit of difference. And I'm sorry, the people who think the state government is going to change to enforce weekly green bin collection instead of red bins are living in fantasy land. I work in the city of Salisbury, so I work with lots of people who live in the city of Salisbury. They don't have green bins. The only green bins are voluntary. The same goes in Playford. So the notion that the state government is suddenly going to wipe out weekly collection of red bins instead of green, you're living in a fantasy land, people. It's not going to happen. So please don't say every meeting we have this, that, oh, the state government's going to change to weekly green bin collection. Because other than, places like Burnside, who are, in the vanguard of this kind of thing, it's not happening. So look, let's save ratepayers' money. They've suffered for long enough from the spending spree that this council loves going on. Never seen a bit of ratepayers' money that they didn't like to spend. And I hope you'll vote against this motion.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. I will support this motion, and I'd just like to remind Councillor Harvey that we do live in Burnside, not in Salisbury. I believe that education in the community is the key here, to encourage all our residents to have a better understanding of green waste. Perhaps something like a mail-out, including a green waste sticker, and I believe images are more powerful than words for any member of our community who may be unsure of what goes into the green bin, or residents whose first language is not English. Education is the best way to ensure our residents are much better informed. I believe a trial will be most useful in our community, where I see many green waste vehicles driving around our streets to collect excess green waste from our residents. I'm sure this trial will be most welcome by those residents who have voiced their support. Maybe we can also encourage schools to get involved with doing a colouring in competition on a green bin. A good opportunity to involve children in the process of what goes into these green bins. Once again, particularly if English is not a first language. I hope you'll support this motion. Thank you.
Question is, are we ever going to see when will we get the payback time? What is the payback time in this business case? If we can foresee things in the future. Thank you.
Through the chair, there's environmental benefits, but in terms of financial payback, we can't forecast that because there's an ongoing cost to the council. However, if it becomes community norm for people not to opt out, then the costs will be reduced. And if the state landfill levy keeps going up, then eventually there may be a payback, but we can't forecast that.
I can just say that Holfast Bay is still investigating that, and they haven't got to the point where they actually are saving money by having those red bins. They're still through that process of trying to determine the cost benefit over the longer period of time. But ideally, if everybody agreed, but that while you've got the opt-out, that is still problematic because you've still got to send your trucks around. And that's the cost of the trucks and the movement of those trucks around that is the big cost. And Dr. Phil's agreeing with me, so I guess I'm saying the right thing. But I did go to those presentations done by Holfast Bay. So. Okay, next one is Councillor Turnbull.
Just one last question, thanks, Mayor. Does administration know if there are financial implications for council for contamination of green bins? Because I can just imagine people saying, oh dear, it's not red bin time, let's just chuck it in the green bin anyway. And I did hear from East Waste when I was out there that there are financial considerations, big ones.
Through a minute, I might get Dr. Phil to just give us a comment on that.
City of Burnside, through the Mayor, City of Burnside has very low contamination rates in green bins and relatively low contamination rates in yellow bins as well, compared to other councils. There are consequences for if those were to increase, but historically we've always had very low contamination rates.
Councillor Cornish. Sorry, Councillor Turnbull, could you just turn your mic off, please?
Thank you, Worship. I will support this. I think it's a very good idea. The trial's only $65,000, which is what would be going to the community through the budget, which will be the community consultation. So they'll get to actually vote and give us feedback on next year's budget as to whether or not they want the trial to go ahead or not. I think it's a great idea. I do disagree. with some sentiments. So I live in a multi-unit block, as most people here know. I actually decide to share bins with a fellow resident because we can't fill our bins that we have individually, let alone I don't want 15 sets of bins on the property because that is just an absolute eyesore. And I can tell you right now that we barely need to put the red bin out once a month, even between 2 units. And yet the green bin we could quite easily put out every week to get rid of that odour and that smell that goes with all the waste. So I do absolutely and utterly support this in the trial. I did have a question about obviously a trial, I'd imagine it would be in a geographic area, and how many properties are we looking at in a trial of $65,000?
Through Madam Mayor, I would refer to my colleagues about the number, but yes to a geographic area, I'm sure, and we'd have to work closely with East Waste to look at efficiencies and logistics, just about location and timing. But I'll just ask the question about numbers of the size of the trial. Thanks, Dr. Reitman.
Through the Mayor, the only way to make it logistically efficient is to use one of the bin collection days as the trial area. The council is divided into 5 days, so it's roughly a fifth of the council. Obviously, the size of the blocks makes a difference too, so it's a very rough estimation, but somewhere near there.
Thank you.
Councillor Henschke, you have a question?
I'd like to speak.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to see a trial with a bunch of residents to see if they can actually reduce their red bin waste and do all of those things and recycle and see what the results of that are before we embark on a trial to increase, the green waste every week. Because we need to really get the results from the City of Holdfast Bay, who invested in this on behalf of all councils. And we've heard this before from the Mayor, that the trial's going on and we're learning about it. Well, we need to see what the lessons learned are, and then we can start. There's so many other wonderful things we can do to educate residents to recycle, reuse, reduce waste. Get that culture happening first with a trial in itself, and then start implementing such a cultural change. We're talking about increasing more trucks on the road. If we did a life cycle assessment of the big picture here, we've got more emissions from more trucks on the road. We are spending capital here of $500,000 at a time when we have a deficit. We've just come out of COVID. We are struggling with our subsidiaries. The costs there, and I agree with Councillor Jones on this, and unfortunately I would love to support it. I compost myself. I even get so upset about all the apple cores, the little stickers that don't compost down, and whenever I spread my compost out in my garden, I have to pick out all the little apple stickers that aren't plastic. So I really do, in my household, try very hard to do all of those things and even compost myself. But I'm putting on my environmental hat and my financial business case hat, and I really think we need to, and also due diligence in that I'm waiting for the Holdfast Bay trial to be presented to all the councils and all those lessons learned and the great things we can all move forward with. So thank you for listening.
Councillor Davey, you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. In discussions with East Waste, how are these trials fitting into their business plan and their achievements in terms of reducing waste to landfill? Because I know they have that target. And are they supportive of these trials around the metro councils at least?
Yeah. Through Madam Mayor, I think it's fair to say East Waste view themselves primarily as in their terminology, a wheels business. So in essence, if we ask them to pick up the rubbish, they'll pick it up at a cost recovery measure. So they're not opposed to it, but in general terms, I believe they are supportive of these measures because one thing they know and the waste industry knows and we know is that we must get as close to zero waste to landfill as possible. Now, we've included the words this evening, avoidable, which is prudent, but that is where the industry and community ultimately need to get. So in short, East Waste are supportive of that endeavour. They certainly won't stand in our way, but they will pass on that little bit of extra cost in the early stages. But as Dr. Roitman has said, if we can think to a future where this becomes the norm, then those costs essentially are no longer there, and it just becomes how we do business.
Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm looking ahead. If this gets up, and judging from what I'm hearing it may, can Burnside Ward be the trial ward, please, seeing we were so cooperative over having the pump track? I think it would be good for us.
And also the compostable bags.
Oh, also because we have already done the compostable bags, we took them around to every house. You've heard this before, with every house in our area, and so I think we should be number one.
Thank you.
I love the sentiment, but I don't know that the ward structure is actually the East Waste limitation. I suspect that there's some boundary crossovers in terms of the areas I've just been dealing with residents who live on the perimeter of Nord, Payneham, St Peters and East Waste, where they're getting ignored or not getting their bins collected because they're right on the boundary and there's confusion. So there is, the issue is the different days are going to be reliant, and that may not, I love the idea, support it in principle, but don't know if a reality can occur because it all depends on when the bins are collected on what days. Councillor Wilkins, you're next.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Your Worship. Somebody just reminded me, the conversation just reminded me, a question to the CEO and perhaps to the staff. I did hear recently that there was an orange bag being trialled in some council areas on the soft plastics being collected in an orange bag. Do we have anything further info on that?
Madam Mayor, Councillor Wilkins and I had a conversation last council meeting, and I did place a call with the CEO of East Waste, but I haven't got an answer yet. Now, but Dr. Roitman may, or Mr. Cant might.
Through the Mayor, there are some trials going ahead, yes, but they have very limited places to take the soft plastic at the moment, so the trials are limited by that. There's no point to collecting soft plastic that you don't have somewhere to recycle and something to turn it into. So there are trials going ahead, and there are explorations of new markets for that product so that those type of things can be increased. We, of course, would like to see the increase of soft plastic, but it's also important that we advocate for purchasing materials that have soft plastic in them and a reduction in soft plastic packaging and the like, so that we have less soft plastic to recycle, and those things we are all doing.
Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question, if I may. Does the administration know many supermarkets now are using compostable bags in their veggie areas? So, you know, some elected members might not need to go out and deliver them to every home in their ward?
That is a change. Councillor Wilkins?
I just want to alert people to the fact that indeed one of our local supermarkets down in the ward, Eastwood Ward, Freeville, does actually have compostable bags that you can put your fruit and vegetables in, absolutely free of charge.
All Food Lands and Drakes too.
Sorry?
All Food Land and
Drakes,
yeah.
yep.
That's right, Woolworths but not Coles. Right, I don't have anyone else on my screen, and I'm looking for the person who was seconding. I think that was you, Councillor Hubel.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, to the administration and the team, Dr. Roatman and everyone involved. I always feel really good about reading these reports. It's a real warm, fuzzy time for me. As for the motion on hand, though, I think it's really important, a couple of points, that we do have the opt-out. There is the focus on community education. And the report actually brought my mind to the Keep Your Bin In article in winter 2022. And now I must admit, I missed that when it came out. So I was like, oh, what's this? And it was a year old. So, and then I went to the winter 22 focus and realised it was on the same page as the report about finding the bandicoots in Waterfall Gully. And that really excited me when that happened. So that was lost on me at the time. So always good for a flashback. I like that this is subject to a successful financial bid. And a few notes I made, and these aren't directed at any particular speakers, but things that came up. A phrase came to me, a quote, the fantasies of the skeptics are the realities of the brave. And it was me that came up with that. So, yes, fantasies may be, but these things do begin somewhere. In terms of resident support for this sort of thing, I'll give a nod to my Year 6 students who I'm teaching about civics at the moment and highlight we are in an indirect representative democracy. Our system is not about going to consultation about everything that we think might be a little bit controversial or we're not entirely sure of. We have been elected to make decisions on behalf of the people that have elected us. That is our role, and sometimes that means being brave, and well, that'll come out in the wash. Financially, I understand, but I don't see these sorts of things as being about payback time for financial business cases. I think it's the right thing to do. Uncertainty of finances shouldn't be a deal breaker. It's certainly important, and like I alluded to at the start, and is in the motion tonight, this is subject to a successful financial budget bid. So, look, and in the spirit of representative democracy, I will also nominate the good people of Beaumont to be part of the trial. But of course, we will have our workshop. If this motion gets up, we will have our workshop to talk about trial locations. So, congratulations everyone involved, and thank you.
Just before I go back to Councillor Davey for her to summarise, I just want to... We've spent a lot of time talking about garbage, and while it is a massive cost to us, I just really want to reinforce a lot of the most really other important things that are in this document. You know, we should never take these sustainability reports without serious conscious implications of the work that has gone into them through our staff. And I'm not, you know, I really appreciate Councillor Davies' motion, but I just really want to reinforce the importance of these sustainability reports. They are always glowing about the kind of actions that we're actually doing within Burnside City. And when I go represent the council in many places, I certainly have and use the opportunity to talk about our sustainability and our sustainability reports and our sustainability scope. And I think it's really important that we reinforce that all the time. And I just want to take the opportunity before Councillor Davey, and I'm sorry if I'm taking what you were going to say, Councillor Davey, but I wanted to make sure I thanked Dr. Phil and all of the team involved in creating not just the report, but actually doing all the work that is included in this report, like the Environment Awards and the Cooler Wild grants and the trailhead signage and Pioneer Women's Trail, the Tree City of the World. There are so many fantastic things that the council has been doing in the last quarter, and I really wanted to make it appreciated, make my point in my role. So now, Councillor Davey.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you everyone for all of your input. It's clear that there's a great deal of passion about waste and recycling and how we can do it better in Burnside. Firstly, I'd like to say that my colleague, my co-ward councillor, Councillor Zing, fully supports this. He helped me draft this motion and we were going to present it together until his business commitments meant he wasn't able to be here on council tonight. So he is fully supportive of this and conversant with this. And in actual fact, we were hoping to nominate our ward to be a trial. So that'll have to be worked out in our workshop perhaps. I also note that the trials in other councils are in the early days. For those who are wanting to wait till we get results, we've got Holdfast Bay, Charles Sturt and Prospect councils undertaking these trials of preventing waste into their green bins. So why not Burnside? I really think, I think there's enough pressure and interest in our community. There certainly was when I was campaigning in the elections and from my residents in the Kensington Park ward. And this isn't intended as an impost on our budgets. The early costs of 65k are actually an investment, I see, in our futures, because this important project, if it's successful and starts really being implemented, means that we will be saving money. As we've just seen in our promotions in Composting Week, there is interest and a lot of work being done already to promote how we can manage our green waste better, but we still need education, education, education. We need to be supporting our elderly residents who may be unsure or hesitant, and we need to particularly support those for whom English is a second language. Hopefully, we can also include food and our green waste collection as a theme within our focus magazines, and hopefully we may be able to obtain some funding from Green Adelaide to do some information and education and promotional work. So hopefully you'll support this as a start to get this project underway in Burnside. I hope you'll support it. Thank you.
All those in favour? Against? Carried. Division has been called, so those who voted in favour please stand. Councillor Cornish, Harvey, Hallett, Turnbull, Dawes, Hubel, Jennings, Wilkins and Davey. Those against? Jones, Councillors Jones and Henschke. Can I make the suggestion that now is an appropriate time for us to have a 10-minute break? You'll move, so just an indication, we don't have to have a formal motion. An indication, all right, from everyone. A 10-minute break, it's 9 o'clock, we resume at 9:10.
I just want to,
we have a quorum. We can restart, and Councillor Davey, 11.5, the finance end of year report, and that is page page 55.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to move in accordance with the recommendation. I just had one question of the CEO, and that was about savings targets at para 13 on page 56. We're having a lot high use of temporary labour hire, backfilling roles, and I just wondered, which is affecting our savings, and I just wondered what areas, if you could illuminate for us, what areas in council we've needed to use temporary labour and why, please. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I can refer that to Ms Reynolds.
Thank you. Through the chair, the two areas where we're experiencing a high temporary labour cost is in the swimming pool as well as the depot. We are noticing that it is harder to get lifeguards in particular in the swimming pool, and we have had to pay them a higher rate to attract talent as well. And the depot, with the recent storm event, we did have some expenditure in that area on temporary labour.
Councillor Dawes, you seconded?
Yes,
or you
I'll
got a question?
second it, but can I ask a question of administration? I think this is the first time as a council, in relation to 11.2, which talks about the Q3 budget update, which we've passed tonight, we will have an operating surplus of deficit of 372,000. Now, this is the financial report for April 2023, so it doesn't take into account that. My question to administration is that just due to a reclassification, recategorisation, not sure the right words, of asset gains, or what's the reason for the operating surplus going from 1.65 million to 372 loss at March, and it's not reflected in this one, but it's not because we suddenly lost money. Is it just due to a reclassification? So I'm kind of combining the two agenda items somewhat, but does the administration understand my question?
Through Madam Mayor, yes.
Oh,
I do understand the question, and I'll just refer it to Ms Reynolds. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, Councillor Dawes, you're asking the question related to Q3, and you're asking about the difference in the surplus. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, what I'm saying to you is that because it's an April 2023 report, we have previously passed in 11.2 that is no longer appropriate because the operating surplus is now at March 372,000 in deficit. But in this one, in 11.5, it says an operating surplus of 1.04 million, but it hadn't taken into account the Q3 budget update.
That is correct, through the chair. So the monthly report will reflect Q3 results once it's adopted by council tonight.
Yes.
So in the next monthly report, you'll see the numbers line up, taking into account the Q3 adjustments.
So my question is the main adjustment due to a reclassification of the asset gains? Because previously I'm guessing they were an operating income, but now they are regarded differently as an equity gain.
Very good, Councillor Dawes. That's exactly right. So the adjustment that you'll see in the Q3 report, through the chair, is around the adjustment for Brannel-Keswick Creek, whereby it's gone between the operating and capital classes, and that's caused a significant variance to the operating surplus, but not to the net surplus.
I have no one on the screen. So, Councillor Davey, do you wish to sum up? All right, I can put the motion then. All right, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Now, Councillor Davey, I think you have the Mayor's report? No, yes, that's right. Mayor's report, 11.8, page 80.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm moving in accordance with the recommendations. And I just had a query. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there with another commitment, but I'm interested in the City of Burnside Business Awards breakfast. And I couldn't find any information about how the awards are awarded. Do we have a committee, like we've got grants committee, to assess the nominees and what categories there are? I couldn't find anything about the business awards, and so I just wanted a little bit more information, please.
Number one, there were two different sets of awards on that day. One were the heritage ones that came through the Heritage Reference Group, and they were the ones for businesses that have been operating for 50 years or more. So that was one set of awards. The other awards were 3 awards. There was a committee, I was not on it. It was done through, I'll let Ms Reynolds, because it was done through Propel as well as the council, and they were the judges, Jack Batty and Emily Burke. No, I'm just thinking we only did the presentations. Yeah, Emily Burke, Jack Batty and I did the presentations only. We didn't have any involvement in the decision making. So I'll leave it to Ms Reynolds.
Thank you. Through the chair, you are correct. There are 2 categories in broad terms. So one which was assessed against set criteria. There were 3 subcategories within that. So the first one was the Social Change Maker Award. Second one was the Young Entrepreneur Award. And the third one was the Innovation Award. The panel were made up of Chris Cowley, the CEO of Burnside, myself, and Mary Nizamis, who's the chair of the Propel SA board. There were some terms and conditions, which included that the business must operate within the City of Burnside, be registered with an ABN. The information that is provided as part of the nomination must explain, illustrate, and highlight the business's achievement in that particular area. So there were a number of criteria that had to be fulfilled, and the 3 panel members assessed those businesses that nominated and chose the winners. The second award category was the Heritage Business Award, and that was purely based on businesses within the area that have operated and serviced the community for 50 years or more. So there was no nomination for this award, and there was no judging involved as well. If the business had exceeded 50 years, they automatically got the award for the Heritage Awards. Thank you.
And I was very pleased to have Councillor Harvey and Councillor Jones attend those awards. And I think they both gave high praise to the organisers of that award. Would you agree, Councillor Harvey and Councillor Jones? Right, okay. Is there anything else you wanted to find out about, Councillor Davey? Otherwise, are you happy for me to just put the motion? Oh, no, so we need a second officially. Councillor Cornish, thank you. I think you just beat him because you hit the button. All right, so thank you. Now I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Chief Executive Report, that's 11.9, page 82.
And I'm happy to move in accordance with the recommendation. I just had a couple of questions about staffing the human resources aspect. And that does clarify some of the temporary labour hire issues. And the other one I'm very interested in is our recruiting and how we're going with that in the current climate. And I noticed that we've got 3 positions being recruited in May. It's a bit confusing because some says not currently being recruited, but recruitment scheduled for May 2023. So I just wonder if we could have some clarification, please, about those positions.
So through Madam Mayor, happy to clarify. In broad terms, recruitment at the minute is proving relatively challenging. It is a very tight labour market. We are competing with the private sector for some of our expertise. I think about roles like our communications officer role. So we're having to compete more on our non-financial offerings to people. So we're doing a lot of work in the other benefits of working at City Burnside rather than straight financial. But in terms of the positions, you'll notice, so events scheduled for May, team leader civil scheduled for May. Comms, currently in the process, so just waiting for that process to go through. The youth officer, obviously I can't start recruitment, that was approved for this coming financial year, so that will be subject to our ultimate budget getting up. Team member arboriculture is similar, so I can't commence recruitment until the budget is approved. Team leader community development, I think you'll find we're just finalising the position descriptions, so we'll have that confirmed shortly when we're going to recruit that. And the urban forestry, the team are just finalising the process. But the short answer is, with all of these, our endeavours are to fill roles as soon as possible, because it does put a burden on the staff that are remaining in these teams. But as I said, as an opening comment, recruitment is challenging. We're currently going through an EB at the minute, enterprise bargaining process at the minute, and what we are finding through that process is that some of our compatriots who join us are paying considerably more for certain roles, and that is, we have actually lost a number of staff to surrounding councils because of that, and that's why, whilst I can't always compete on money, I have to look at compete in other ways. Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Cornish.
Happy to second the CEO's April report.
Thank you. Councillor Davey.
Another question. Are we an employer of choice? And if not, how do we make ourselves an employer of choice? That's what I'd really like to see.
Yeah, no,
it just worries me a bit.
I absolutely agree with you. To become an employer of choice, you need to pay a membership fee to the organisation that gives out the sticker. Karishma's just advised me it costs $3,000, and that's not the impediment. I must say, everything we're doing as an organisation, we are aiming to be an employer of choice. So we are taking active steps, and I'd like to think that as an organisation, we'll actually make that investment to get the official accreditation within the foreseeable future. Yep, absolutely. Because as I say, that is the way you compete, not solely on price. Yep.
Councillor Hallett.
I've got a question about point 19 on page 84. And this seems to be incredibly high for a 1 month period. And I was wondering if there's any reason particularly for that. It says it equates to approximately 18.5 full-time equivalents. That's a big jump in staff.
Through Madam Mayor, it was in direct response to the management of the storm event. So what you'll find is we literally hit the ground as hard as we can, and it does require dragging in some additional staff, because if we didn't do that, the community would be putting up with the clean-up process for an extended period of time, and I think you'll find that our community probably wouldn't be happy to tolerate that. Yeah, so it's all around that recent storm event.
Thank you.
Councillor Turnbull.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. On page 85, Eura Water's given an orange dot. Shouldn't that be a red dot? Active council intervention required, because we really need to do something about it pretty quickly.
3 minutes, that's a fair point.
Thank you.
I'm happy to amend it on that basis. No, that's a fair point. Thank you.
Councillor Hitt.
Oh, thank you. Just a couple of questions. So Councillor Hallett referred to the clean-up costs there, and I recall that we did help out the City of Unley as well in that terrible storm time. Did they, yes, did we invoice them?
Through Madam Mayor, I might get Mr. Cant just to update me. I don't think Unley did. Did we end up getting a couple of staff from Mitcham?
Yeah, no, we donated some of the staff time. The CEOs came to an agreement and they put out a call for help across the sector. We also donated time during the bushfires in previous years. And I'm pleased to say that that was reciprocated recently following our storm when the City of Mitcham supplied a few tree arborists to come along and help us with the clean-up as well. So we try and help out our neighbours when we can.
Thank you. And the advertising concession for bus shelters, I'm just not, I don't understand what that procurement dispensation of $200,000 was approved for. Just have an explanation of that, thank you.
Sorry, what we...
Just to clarify, what?
Advertiser concession.
Number 12. Yes. I might get Ms Reynolds to clarify, or Mr Cairn. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Through the chair. There's only one supplier that we engage with, which is Media, and they basically take over our bus shelters. We've got a really good arrangement with them whereby they maintain our bus shelters for us as well and provide us with some revenue on advertising. As such, there are not other providers in the market that we can approach, and the procurement dispensation was essentially because under our framework we are required to approach a number of providers, and we could not do that in that instance. And there's been no changes, so we've continued with the service with the same provider.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Just another question on the dashboard on page 99 about customer requests. And I just wanted some clarification of the time. Is this, in terms of CM requests to date, is that council members, or is that requests made into the general system?
Through Madam Mayor, that is council member requests.
Microphone, Councillor
That's
Davey.
purely council member requests.
Right. And do we also log other customer
We certainly
requests?
do. We certainly do.
Is that on here?
Let me just go to my papers. Oop. If I just, sorry, just find my place again. God. It certainly, it certainly is. Yep, certainly is. Just trying to get the system right. I might get Ms Reynolds just to clarify for us.
Sure, thank you. Through the chair, that is correct, Councillor Cornish. So the 477 number is from council members, and where you see the open and overdue CRs, which are the CRMs, we've got just under that you'll see logged, which are 431, which is the number of CRMs logged in the last 30 days. And you've also got resolved under that, which is 1,011. That's the number of CRMs resolved in the last 30 days. And then just above that, in the donut, you'll see the open and overdue CRMs, with overdue being 199 and on track being 580. So the two combined are the open CRMs.
So just to follow up, is this CRM data since January 2021? So that's 2.5 years worth.
Through the Mayor, I believe that is for the CRMs on the left. I don't believe that's for the CM requests, but I'll take it on notice and I'll come back to the commencement date.
If we could have perhaps the number of requests and the window, the dates within that.
Sure.
And then the open CRs overdue, is that the ones that come from the general public through our phone system?
That is correct. The open and overdue CRMs, that's from the general customer service desk in the CRM system, yes.
And my final question is, why are so many overdue? Because what I'm finding is that complaints that aren't addressed are then coming to us to fix. And I just wonder how they overlap and how they're counted.
Yep. No, certainly it's an ongoing focus area for us. I'm actually quite pleased to report that as an organisation we've significantly dropped our number of overdue CRMs. We've still got some work to do. I won't shy away from that. But the team, and largely courtesy of the council giving me a percentage target of outstanding CRMs of 10%, that has meant as an organisation we're driving hard to reduce that. So there is an ongoing concerted effort to continue to diminish the outstandings. So yes, there are some more than we perhaps like outstanding, but the organisation has considerably reduced that and will continue to reduce them in the future.
Councillor Henschke.
Oh, thank you. On page 84 of the agenda, I think it's item 16's meant to read, the CEO attended the following meetings. It says in February 2023. I think it's meant, is it meant to be April? Because this is a report for April, I presume. Yeah, it's just a typo.
Apologies.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
If there are no further questions or comments, Councillor Davey, you happy for me to move it, put it? Right, those in favour, those against, carried. Thank you. Right, that's the end of the formal business, but there are just three short, Councillor Wilkins has spoken to me about something that she would like to mention to you all.
Just a heads up, as a board member of the National Trust of South Australia, I was at Beaumont House last Sunday, and what prompted me to tell you that it was a successful Pioneer Women's Trail that walked from Harndorf to Beaumont last Sunday. 900 people were registered for that event, and just seeing the new sign on page 43 in our agenda just prompted me to say thank you very much to the work that Council has done for these signs, because several people, as they were handing in their lanyards at the gate, said that it was really pleasing to see signs. So I presume they're there and people have commented, and thank you very much. That's a very positive action from Burnside Council. I just thought you needed to know that 900 people would have noticed them if they'd walked in that particular section. Thank you.
Thank you. I've just got two things. One is that thank you for those people who did respond to me in relation to the ERA meeting that was held last week. The response or the discussion at that meeting ended up having such a diverse group of responses from the 6 councils, from within the 6 councils, and no decision was made on the night. The other thing I wanted to share with you is, and I'll get Mr. Cowley because he hasn't seen it either yet. On Sunday, I represented you all at an art presentation in Burnside Ballroom, and present at that was the Chinese Deputy Consular General, and he presented me, he presented the City of Burnside with this piece of artwork to be hung in our, you take that end, to be hung in our library. So I thought you might like to see it. It's a public place, so it'll be library, I think. He is actually a lives in Burnside. He is also a regular user of the library, and this has come from the Deputy Consular General of China, the People's Republic of China, and we will get someone to translate the Chinese into English and have an English translation on the wall. And I'm also pleased to say that the explanation about the reconciliation artwork is now up on the wall next to the reconciliation artwork in the foyer, so, as you come into the council. So I just thought you'd like to all see this piece of work that, as I said, I've accepted on behalf of the City of Burnside, and it's going to look beautiful in the library. They have to just work out how they're going to mount it. Yeah, so anyway, that's all. So I will close the meeting at 9:37, and thank you all for your attendance.
Thank you. Oh, Rolf Harris is done. Really?
Rolf Harris. He used to have a picture on the wall in Festival Theatre, but they took it down.
Until he was a convicted pedophile.
Yes, when he was convicted, they took it down.